Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a spectacular tournament that started today. Welcome to the Qatar Masters in 2023. So this tournament is a beautiful Swiss format chess event. So we'll see now 9 rounds of classical time format chess, which is I think a great thing for us. Probably we'll see many theoretical novelties, improvements of sidelines, many great strategic games, but also probably many great tactical games. And among many great players, I'm really looking forward to again watch Magnus Carlsen in classical time format chess. Also, Hikaru Nakamura is here, Anish Giri is here, Gukesh is here, Arjun Ergaisi. So we'll see probably every day a spectacular derby between many top GMs. So in the round 1, we had already a spectacular game. It was Magnus Carlsen against Srihari. Srihari, an international master from India, and the rating difference between the two of them was 400 rating points, which is really crazy. Magnus usually brutalizes even the top GMs, even 2750 rated players. But look what he did now to Srihari in this game. In my opinion, really one of the most dynamic games that I've seen by Magnus Carlsen. Put your seatbelts on and enjoy in this beautiful and spectacular attack by Magnus Carlsen. So let's see now what happened in the round 1 with the white pieces. Magnus Carlsen opened with the move c4. Srihari's response was c6, d4, d5. We have a transposition into the Slav defense. Knight to f3, knight to f6. And now we have the move g3, which becomes now this Catalan structure. And usually many times now these days calm e6 is played, then you play something like bishop to g2, bishop to b4, bishop to d2, then we retreat, then we play b6, knight from b to d7, bishop to b7 or bishop to a6 are main lines. But Srihari played a very interesting line with the move bishop to f5. Bishop to f5 is not so often played. It's a little bit dangerous because you're leaving also your pawn on b7 unprotected, and usually this bishop can be attacked by the move knight to h4. Here Magnus continues with normal development. Knight to c3. We have the e6 by Srihari, and now Magnus goes immediately with knight to h4. Now Srihari makes, I think, a huge decision. He plays now d takes c4. And obviously, Magnus is going to take out now the bishop. When Magnus takes out now the bishop pair loves simply this kind of a pawn structure, this imbalance, this asymmetrical pawn structure. I myself, when I meet this kind of a line, when my opponent is attacking my light square bishop, for instance, I like to simply go with bishop to e4, at least provoking something here, because if you want to take, of course, now here the bishop on e4, then we can recapture with d takes e4 or also with knight to e4. If he wants to kick away your bishop with f3, now it's time to retreat. And if he wants to take out now your bishop here on g6, then after h takes g6, at least in this scenario, I think we have provoked some dark square weaknesses here in front of white king, if white, for instance, castles kingside, but also with some dirty tactics we can make some mess here with bishop to d6, maybe bishop takes g3, h takes g3, and similar stuff. So at least you provoked some kind of structural weakness here. What Srihari did, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think it meets with the idea of the beauty of the bishop pair, because look at this. After d takes c4, Magnus took, knight takes f5, e takes f5, and now simple idea, e3. We want to pick up now our pawn back and continue the game with the bishop pair in a slightly unbalanced pawn structure. Look at this. This pawn is weak. The knight has to be developed. What should you do? The problem for black is here that you cannot actually defend the pawn with the move b5. Has been played before, but always with an ending where white is destroying black. Look at this. We simply continue with bishop to g2, targeting the simple weakness here, the c6 pawn. You have to play now even something like bishop to b4 in order to prevent knight takes b5. Knight takes b5 would be then a huge tactical threat. You have to pin now the knight. White castles. You have to even give up your other bishop now. And now after b takes c3, still your main target is here. Still the c6 pawn is unprotected. You could maybe try castle, but look at this. We break simply the pawn chain. We're trying, of course, to let this bishop breathe here and maybe even grab the rook. You have to even lock somehow the position. Now we attack it further. You attack it. You defend it now with g4. I think we can agree that this is a much better continuation here for black. Black has to play strange moves like knight to d7, knight to f6 in order to protect somehow this outposted knight on e4, but still this knight can be even kicked away. Look at this, f3, e4. So of course black doesn't have to play the game like this, but I wanted to show you how dangerous it would be to play really this b5 move. Don't fall for this. So here, that's why after move e3, Srihari played the solid bishop to d6. We have bishop to c4 by Magnus. kingside Carlsen, queen to f3, hitting the weak pawn on f5, forcing basically here black to play now the move g6. But now when the move g6 is coming, now the knight is a little bit loose here on the board. The queen is always overloaded to the defense of the knight, and Magnus uses now this moment. Tricky Magnus plays now beautiful h3. And if you're bothered maybe with your play, if you don't know how to react with the bishop here, this is the way to go. You're simply letting the position explode. You don't allow here your opponent to cement the position, to fix the position, to somehow create sort of a blocking system. You're not allowing him to create a blockade. Now with the move h3, Magnus is already announcing the dynamic g4. So that's why after move queen to e7 that here Srihari had to play, because there are some threats, of course, with c5 if you stay with the king too long in the center. So that's why Magnus castled first. We have now the move h5 by Srihari, not allowing Magnus Carlsen to play now the move g4. If you allow that, then I think it could be very, very risky. g4, h takes f6, g4, h takes g4, g5, and similar stuff could be very, very dangerous to handle for black. So that's why with the move h5, Srihari at least stopped for a while white's progress here on the king side. But Magnus continues with rook to e1 with the preparation to play the move e4. But now Srihari, I think, makes his first inaccurate move. He plays now the move knight to e4. He blocks out now. He, as I said, with the knight and the bishop against the bishop here, you're trying to create a blocking system. But this is not a solid blocking system. This is not a blockade, because this blockade can be broken. What here black should have played is simply knight to d7. Allow here white to make this move e4. We take, okay. You can, of course, get a rook into the game, but with queen to f6, I think we can survive this attack a little bit longer, maybe even force a trade-off to trade off the queens. Now white has at least this isolated d-pawn. Still, white should be much better. I'm not talking about that. It's not that Magnus made the mistakes or something, but this was maybe the way to go for Srihari to somehow survive this attack for a while. But with the move knight to e4, as I said, we know our goal. We're letting the position explode. We're trying, of course, to break and enter, and that's exactly what Magnus is doing. g4, brilliant move. Deflecting, simply trying at least to deflect the pawn from the defense of the knight on e4. If that happens, then of course we have here the knight attack twice. So g4, really brilliant plan here by Magnus Carlsen. We have h takes g4, h takes g4. We have bishop to b4 by Srihari, another mistake. The only way, again, to somehow to survive maybe Magnus Carlsen's attack is knight takes c3, after b takes c3, queen to e4, forcing again a trades of queens. Simplify the game, because if this beasts somehow get into the game, you're getting tactically destroyed. Because look at this, after queen to e4, probably Magnus would have played here bishop to e2. Okay, you can trade off the queens. Still, white is much better here, but at least the game is not so active, it's not so fast, I think, it's not so dynamic, it's not so dangerous. So here that was the only chance for Srihari to make something happen, but he played now the risky bishop to b4, and from this point on, as I said, put your seatbelts on and enjoy in this sharp attack here by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus continues with g takes f5. This is the way you go. Knight takes c3, b takes c3. We have bishop to c3, and it seems so that something went wrong here from Magnus, but Magnus continues with a beautiful plan, queen to g4. Trying, of course, immediately the sneaky plan, queen to g6. This is, of course, the huge threat, because you cannot take because of the bishop's activity here on c4 against black's king. What Magnus also could have done immediately, look how dangerous this attack can be, is also tricky move f6. Maybe Magnus missed even an earlier ring here, because after f6 you have to retreat, but you have to keep the queen connected to the pawn on f6, because there are always some threats to sneak in with the queen on h6 and deliver checkmate. The bishop is paralyzed, the bishop is out of game. So now white continues with bishop to a3. This wasn't played in the game, but look at this, very great attack. It would have been also here if you try bishop to e1, then we try queen to f4. We don't have to even pick up the bishop. Now we play c5, locking out now the bishop, because the huge threat is bishop to e7, followed with, as I said, queen to h4, queen to h2 or something, and then sneak in with the queen and deliver checkmate on g7. Now we play simply queen to g5 again with the threat queen takes the g6. Now you can have this one, king to h7, but now we play bishop to c5. You have to maybe include here the piece into the game, but now after bishop to e7, it's simply time to give up the queen now for the bishop, and this would be also game over here for black. But after move bishop to c3, Magnus went into also very interesting line. Queen to g4 with the threat, as we said, queen takes g6. King to g7, here black prevents this. Maybe queen to f6 slightly better, but again, f takes g6, simply breaking and entering. You're trying this one, we're opening the position. This is again a brutal position here for black to handle. So here from king to g7, Magnus continues with the beautiful plan e4. And in the beginning, it seems so that this is nothing spectacular, because why is Magnus now pushing suddenly a pawn? The trick is here that when we are trying to get our queen and somehow maybe attack here on h6, this queen to h3 comes with a beautiful attack against the bishop on c3. Look, for instance, if black would have continued with something like knight to d7, then as I said, queen to h3 with a huge threat, queen to h6. Now we have to compete on the h file, but now we pick up the bishop. You can maybe try this one, but queen to f3 protects actually everything. We're controlling the h1 square. We're continuing the game, of course, with up a piece. So here in the game, after king to g7 and the move e4, here Srihari took out now the rook on a1, but Magnus continues now with bishop to g5. What should you do? If you play f6 here, it's not working, because this is one. This one is really brutal. Bishop to h6. You have to step back. If you don't step back, then you got this one. You got simply queen to g6. It's a beautiful checkmate. So you have to step back. For instance, now we play. Look at this. F takes g6 with a huge threat of g7. This is really brutal what Magnus Carlsen is doing. Now we have to even sacrifice the rook, but still we push simply the pawn. We take out this one. So it's game over again here for black. So after move bishop to g5, queen to b4 was played by Srihari, but now Magnus goes, of course, with f6. We have king to g8. Magnus picks up now here the bishop on a1. What should you do again? Even if you try, I don't know, something like queen to c4, then of course the queen is coming on h4. As I said, the main plan remains sneaking in with the queen, and the game is over. So here after rook to a1, knight to d7 was played by Srihari, but now after queen to h3, again here in this particular position, black simply resigns. So there's simply no good defense against this attack. The h-file attack is simply too much to handle with the support of the bishop, with the support of the pawn. This is the devastating position for black, and it was a fair choice, I think, by Srihari to resign the game. Also fair choice, I think. Also he admitted that Magnus was better today, and this was really beautiful game played by Magnus Carlsen. So great game, we have to say it. Okay, this is not really spectacular win by Magnus, but it was, I think, a spectacular attack. Really beautiful attacking flow. Magnus in one moment had two rooks hanging, but you can never take them. Really nice attacking game here by the greatest player of our generation, the strongest player in the world, Magnus Carlsen. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas produced here by Magnus Carlsen with the bishop pair. If you want to see some other content here on my YouTube channel, check out my competent chess games. Here's the link, and also my competent chess games played by computers. Here's also the link. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.